Hello again everyone at Cawthorne Primary. I hope you had lots of fun doing the masterclass. Now I've just read through some of your chapters from your versions of the Mutating Mansion and they are brilliant. First of all, I love that you started your chapters with Amelie's diary entry and then that influenced what happened to Felix and Caspar. That was really good, setting it up in Amelie's diary and then thinking about what would happen, how that would affect Felix and Caspar. I loved all the different rooms that you came up with, from rooms full of lava to really tall staircase, Henry VIII showing up. They were brilliant. I loved it. And also you were really using and thinking about how to use all the tools that I showed you in the masterclass. So you use them to make your writing really exciting and really dramatic and tense. So you did a brilliant job. Well done. And also I've been sent some of your questions. I have them here on my laptop. So I'm going to answer them for you now. And these are brilliant questions. Some of these I've never been asked before, so I'm really looking forward to answering them. And the first question is, does writing energize you or exhaust you? That's a great question to start with. So to answer that, I need to go right back to when I was your age at school. Because as you found out in the masterclass, when I was your age, I didn't really enjoy writing. I found it really hard. This is what happened. I had loads of ideas in my head. I would write those ideas down, but then when I read what I'd written, I just thought it was rubbish. It was nothing like the amazing ideas in my head. So I always just thought that what I was writing was rubbish. And that is still the case for me today. Even though I'm now a published author, I've written loads of books, I still often find myself thinking that what I'm writing is rubbish. And so when I'm writing the first version of my story, I do find it quite exhausting, really tiring, because my mind is just constantly telling me, your writing is rubbish, your writing is rubbish, your writing is rubbish. So my big challenge then is to stop myself from thinking that what I'm writing is rubbish and just keep persevering and keep going and keeping writing. And I find that really tiring. So that's the bit of writing that I find really tiring. But I do find a part of writing really energizing. It gives me energy. I find it really exciting, and that's the editing part. So once I've written the first version of the story, I then have to edit it to make it better, to make it more like the amazing ideas that are in my head. Every author who has ever written a book has to edit their work. They don't write the one version, they write lots and lots of versions. So I might write maybe 5 or 6 different versions. And I love editing. That is a challenge again. But I love that challenge. I have to take the writing that I've done and figure out the bits that are boring, the bits that need more work, the bits that need to be more exciting, where all the problems are that I need to fix. So it's a really big challenge, but I love that challenge of editing. So in answer to that question, I find the first writing of the story, writing the first draft, really tiring because I'm just telling myself it's rubbish all the time. And then I love the challenge. I get lots of energy when I'm editing the book. That's a really good question. Okay, next question. Have any of your friends helped you write? Oh, that's a good question. Certainly when I was at school, I did some projects with friends. Now, though, I tend to write just on my own. So I rely on my own imagination and then writing. But like I said, a lot of writing involves editing. So you always edit your story. And so I have someone called an editor whose job it is to help me edit my book. So all published authors have people called editors who help you to write the book. Okay, how did you decide on a character's personality? That's another great question. How do I decide on a character's personality? Well, let's think about Felix and her friends from Felix Dashwood and the Mutating Mansion, which is the book that you've been doing the masterclass on. So I came up with Felix first of all. That was the first character I came up with. And I wanted her to be really adventurous, because to have an adventure story you need a main character that really wants to go on an adventure. And so Felix is the type of character that will want to go and explore an old abandoned house. She won't really think about that bad things might happen or stuff. She will just want to go in through the front door and find out what's inside. So that's the sort of character Felix is. She doesn't really think through her choices. She just goes and does it and then deals with the consequences later. So when I created Felix, I wanted to create a friend who was different to her, and that's how I came up with her friend Casper. And Casper is someone who much more prefers to read about going on adventures than actually going on them. So Casper really doesn't want to go on adventures. He likes to stand back and think about things first. But that also means that Casper is really good at coming up with solutions to problems because he thinks about things a lot more than Felix. And so quite often Felix will get them into trouble and then Casper will figure out a way to get them out of trouble. And so that's how I created the characters of Felix and Casper. And so that's what I do with all my characters. I think about how they will best work together as a team. Okay, next question. Do you ever look back at one of your previous books and want to change something? Ooh, that's a really good question. Do I ever look back at my previous books? Not a lot, because by the time I've finished writing a book, I will have read it loads of times, maybe even 100 times by the time it's become a book. And so I don't spend most of my time looking back at my old books. But I always find that once I've finished writing a book, I've always learned something from writing it. So the more books I get right, hopefully, the better I get at writing. So every time I write a book, I learn something about writing. And so hopefully my newest book is way better than the first book I wrote. So I always learn something when I write. Okay, next question. Why do you choose dolls and paranormal activity for your story? Ooh, that is a good question. I think it has something to do with my birthday. Because yes, in Mutated Mansion, you've got the dolls and all the creepy stuff that happens. Quite a few of my books have those creepy things in them. I think it might have something to do with my birthday. But I'll let you guess when my birthday could be if I get spooky, scary ideas. Okay, next question. Why did you decide that Amelie would like theatre stuff? So yeah, as you'll have seen in Mutating Mansion, you've got the diary entries from Amelie, who lived 50 years ago. Felix and Casper read Amelie's diary, and then the things in Amelie's diary come to life in the mansion for Felix and Casper. And quite a few of those things are related to theatre, because yeah, Amelie loves theatre stuff. I decided that Amelie would like theatre stuff because I really like theatre stuff. And when I was writing the diary entries as Amelie, because it was a really personal thing to her, because it was her diary, I wanted Amelie to be as close to me as a character as she could be. And so I decided that because I liked theatre things, I would make Amelie like theatre things too. So that's why Amelie likes theatre things, because I do. I wanted Amelie's personality to be really close to mine. Okay. Final question then. What do you think is the most important thing to do when you're writing and editing? Oof, that is a good question to end on. What is the most important thing to do when you're writing and editing? I think, well, you can use all the tools that I've shown you in the masterclass. You can challenge yourself to make it the best writing that you can. But I think the most important thing when you're writing and when you're editing, when you're doing any part of writing, is to have fun. And that's something I always have to remind myself. Just have fun. Don't worry if what you think what you're writing is rubbish. Don't worry if you find it a challenge. Just try to have as much fun as possible writing that story. And the more fun you'll have, the easier it will be to write, and the more fun it will be to read as well. So just try to have fun. That's my number one piece of advice for writing. Have fun. So thank you very much for your writing, for your chapters. They were brilliant fun to read. I loved them. And thank you for those great questions. And now it's time for me to say goodbye.